Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Eagles Latest on Fan Arch. I am your host, Blake McQueary. It is Wednesday. That means it is time to shift the focus from the Chiefs game to the Eagles' next opponent, the Los Angeles Rams. Now, before we get into the Rams and what they hold, how they look, how the Eagles match up, things like that, we have a few things to talk about. First up is the defensive front. The Eagles' defensive front, they have been dominant, especially last week's game against the Chiefs. I haven't talked about them much individually. I've talked about their impact on this Eagles defense. I've talked about kind of when the defensive front is on, when Jalen Carter is playing, things like that, how easier it makes everyone else's job on the defense. But I have not talked about them much individually. But when you look at the Eagles' defensive front, this is just another Eagles position group that is one of the best in the NFL, if not the best. I think they might be the best, and their depth is what makes them so dangerous. I want to shout out a few guys. First is Moro Ojomo. Against the Chiefs, Ojomo had 6 pressures. He led the team in that category. He had a 22.2% pass rush win rate. He had 5 hurries, 2 quarterback hits, 1 sack, and his 6 pressures were the 7th among all defenders in week 2. The breakout year is here for Moro Ojomo. It's here. He has been in the 2 games the Eagles have played. Moro Ojomo has shown flashes that he can be very, very good for this defense. He has been very, very good for this defense in those 2 games, and he's showing his worth on the defensive front. He leads the Eagles in pressures through 2 games with 8. He holds a 13.8% pressure rate. Vic Fangio, he had something to say about him on Tuesday. He said, quote, Ojomo, he's a very good football player. You need to stop being surprised by that. That is just that's not even 1/4 of this defensive front. And you can tell like dominance from Ojomo so far. He's been stellar. Another guy that I want to shout out, Jordan Davis. Through 2 games so far, Davis has totaled 11 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 3 pass deflections, 3 quarterback hits. Davis has the most solo and assisted tackles in the NFL among defensive linemen. Now, something has stuck out to me with Davis is his development and his reliability. Um, he's played 70% of the snaps so far through 2 games. Against Kansas City, he had 32 snaps. That was 53% of defensive snaps. He had, if you remember Davis, he had a huge workload against the Cowboys after Jalen Carter got ejected. He played about 87% of the snaps in the first half. I talked about that in the post-game episode for the Cowboys game. He has been a big anchor to the run defense as well. Against Kansas City, he had 4 stops on 13 run game snaps. I mean, it's so easy for him. He makes it look so easy. He eats up gaps. I mean, his size is also a huge factor in that. 6'6", 336 pounds. He just absolutely eats gaps up. And another guy that I want to shout out on this defensive front is Joshua Uch. He has been stellar for this rush defense. Absolutely stellar. He held the highest pass rush grade in the NFL in week 1 with a 92.7. He's been the Eagles' highest graded defender for 2 weeks in a row. The Eagles' highest graded defender. Think about that just a little bit. I mean, the amount of pressure Uch has been able to create, he has caused for a lot of disruption for opposing quarterbacks, opposing offenses. The Cowboys and the Chiefs, obviously, he's caused for a lot of disruption in both of those games because the amount of pressure he's able to create. He has a quick first step that allows him to just combine speed with agility. And it's hard for an opposing offensive lineman to contain that and to guard that. And then just one last thing for this unit, obviously, is depth. I talked about it when I, introduced them a little bit ago. Like, this is one of the best units in football, and their depth is what makes them so hard to stop. So hard to stop. Among the guys that I just mentioned, you've also got Jalen Carter, who's arguably one of the best defensive players in the NFL, the best defensive player that the Eagles have. You've got Nolan Smith on the edge. You got Jalix Hunt on the edge. And then you just go sign Zadarius Smith, who I talked about a little bit last episode and a few episodes ago when they did sign Smith. You've seen his impact immediately in the Kansas City game. Just his veteran leadership, his energy, and his ability to get to the quarterback. They have absolutely dogs on this defensive front. Dogs. And they are one of the best units, if not the best unit in the NFL. Now we're going to transition over to the offense. I have talked about the offense so much because there is so much to talk about with this Eagles offense because they are struggling. Last episode, I went through some stats on how predictable the Eagles' offense has been. I'll run through them again from The Athletic. Brooks Cabina kind of put out these stats on his Twitter page. But you can check them out in last episode as well. I went through them. But I'll run through them again just really quick so you guys understand what I'm talking about. Through 2 games, they have a tendency to run when under center, 96%. In pistol formation, 91.3%. In shotgun, 33.8%. All other NFL teams, how that matches up. All other NFL teams have a tendency to run when under center, 69.5%. In pistol, 62.7%, and in shotgun, 26.9%. And then, according to True Media, the Eagles are seeing 8+ boxes at a much higher frequency within the sets they run. So under center, they're seeing an 8+ box at 82.8%, in pistol formation, 47.8%, and in shotgun, 4.4%. Comparing to all other NFL teams, under center, 50.1%, in pistol formation, 29.2%, and in shotgun, 7.5%. And also, efficiency drops. In 8+ boxes, they have seen a large amount of efficiency drops in the run game when the box is stacked with 8+ guys. It's a difference. One thing, pistol snaps. For the second week in a row, the Eagles opened up the game with a pistol play action pass play and then ran the ball on 100% of the remaining pistol snaps. Now, the stats that I just went through, I mean, I'll go back and highlight. They have a tendency to run the football 96% when they go under center and 91.3% when they're in pistol formation. That is literally telling you that 9 times out of 10, when the Eagles are under center or in pistol, they are running the football. Now, taking that into account, I actually think that these stats can be a good thing for the Eagles. I mean, it's frustrating, but I think it can be a good thing. It can turn into a really good thing. These stats can now force opposing defenses to predict what the Eagles are doing. Absolutely does. I mean, they go under center and pistol. You basically know they're running the football. But why is that good? Because now, if you are Kevin Patullo and you're Nick Sirianni, you build schemes that are opposite to what the stats are saying. You now have to trick defenses into them thinking they know what you are doing. Simple. It is simple. Kind of hustling them a little bit. Obviously, you still have to take what defenses are giving you. A lot of people frustrated with Kevin Patullo. I, myself, frustrated with Kevin Patullo just because of how simple his offensive game planning has been. The pass game has been very vanilla. It's been very predictable. It's been very not, what's the right word I'm looking for here? Um, it hasn't been appealing. It hasn't been appealing. It hasn't been effective. Um, I last episode cut him a little bit of slack because blocking has been an issue that has caused for major problems. Um, Something Kevin Patullo said today stood out to me, and he was asked about basically the game plan for the Chiefs and creating explosive plays because there's been maybe two explosive plays through two games on this Eagles offense. And what Patullo said was, quote, it's a long quote, but I'll read it all. Quote, when you look at when we game plan and stuff like that, that's obviously always the first thing we do is ask, how do we want to push the ball down the field? As a staff, we work really hard on the plan, especially these next couple of days, to put that on there, and that's a part of it. Sometimes in game, it just doesn't happen. It's definitely something we want to do. It's not something we're avoiding. I know going forward, we have the plan in place, and if it comes up, it'll definitely happen. I think there's a fine line, right? Because you don't ever want to put the quarterback in harm's way. If you do that and the protection doesn't hold up or it doesn't add up to what they're doing, you could have a catastrophic problem. That was one of those games we knew. Both offenses. It was a tough game for both of us. So if you put somebody in harm's way and kind of say, I'm taking a huge chance right here, that negative play could be a major issue and really could be the deciding factor in the game. Now, from that quote and what Patullo was saying, it sounds like the plan was to be aggressive early. I mean, you've seen that with the play action deep shot attempt to A.J. Brown on the very first snap. Um, you kind of seen that aggressiveness there. You've seen their game plan to implement explosive plays. I kind of broke that play down a little bit more in last episode, so you can go and check that out if you didn't. Um, but then it switched as the game progressed to turnover avoidance. Patullo also added, quote, from the way the game was flowing, that any mistake was going to be one of those things that got you the win. So, from what I heard, from what he said, it kind of sounds like that game plan was to have explosive plays implemented, to execute them, to show them off against the Chiefs. And then as the game progressed, it turned into one of those games of being safe, avoiding turnovers. But, like I said, the past two episodes, it's got to be better. At the end of the day, it has to be better. There are a few things this offense can build on. Empty formation is one. I would like to see this offense run empty formation way more than they do. The ability of Jalen Hurts makes it so much easier. And you have the weapons to run empty to spread the field out. You have those weapons to do that. It's going to spread the field out for the defense. Another one, play action. Jalen Hurts is phenomenal in play action. It opens things up. You've got two guys who are great deep shot threats in A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith. And play action does that. Another thing, tonal screens. They were successful running tonal screens against the Chiefs. Acting orbit routes. Simulating like you're, running an orbit and motioning to the other side, things like that. Those are things that this offense can build on. Those are things that worked against the Chiefs. They only did it a handful of times, but they worked. So you build off of that. Empty formation was literally what won them the game on that 3rd and 3 against the Cowboys when Hurts decided to take off and get that first down to seal it. That sealed the game for him. It just has to be better. Take those things, utilize them, and you get better. Moving on to A.J. Brown. just really quick, we are going to talk about A.J. Brown. The discourse around A.J. Brown has been annoying, but I won't lie, they might be right. Somewhat. Somewhat. If you caught it a few episodes ago, I talked about Colin Cowherd's comments of not being surprised if the Eagles trade AJ. That I'm not even going to entertain that right now because it's very wrong. It's literally impossible for the Eagles to trade him because of his contract. But the passing game has to be better, or else AJ will be frustrated. I don't know if you've seen AJ Brown in interviews. The one that sticks out to me is the interview he just did post game against Kansas City after the win. His demeanor in those interviews, you can tell, like, he is calm about the passing game and not getting the ball too much, but he really wants to crash out. He really does. Another thing that I remember is his comments after the Super Bowl, and why I say, like, you've got to get him the ball. In an Instagram post just a couple days after winning the Super Bowl, A.J. Brown said basically that the satisfaction of winning a championship only lasted for 2 days for him. He went on to say the real satisfaction for him when it comes to football is his excellence on the field and making an impact. Now, I know that might seem selfish, is I care about my excellence, I care about making plays, things like that. Yeah, it sounds selfish. It might be a little bit, but you can't be mad at him for that. Some people are like that. That is what they enjoy. That is how they operate. They want to make plays. They want the ball in their hands, and they're satisfied. He is. Also, the thing with me and why I'm not mad at him for those comments is he is a wide receiver. His job and what he gets paid to do is to catch the football and score touchdowns. That is his job. That is what a wide receiver does. It's obviously going to be frustrating when you aren't doing that. It is. I'm not saying you have to give him 10 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns every single week. But what happened against Dallas cannot happen again. And they did a better job at it against Kansas City, getting him the ball, getting him implemented. But it wasn't up to what it can be. Like, you have to avoid the frustration and the drama from last season. Now, I do agree. I think the drama from last season and what happened, I think a lot of it was the media pushing a narrative. I don't think it was as advertised as it was from the media, what they were saying in terms of A.J. Brown being frustrated with Jalen Hurts and Sirianni, whatever the case may be. But you got to get the ball in his hands. I have said this in recent episodes leading up to the season. You want to avoid those dramas, those frustrations of last season. You don't even want that around the facility to deal with. Get your pass catcher the football, or else he will no longer want to be your pass catcher. Point blank period. Point blank period. Now, we are going to move over to the Rams focus. Full focus now. It's Wednesday. Full focus shifts to the Los Angeles Rams. That Chiefs game is out the window. You gather what went well. You gather what you didn't do well. Now you look at what the Rams do well and not so well, and you build off of that. I think this game for the Eagles against the Rams can be their toughest test yet. And a huge indicator. The Rams are 2-0. They have looked pretty good in their first 2 games. They are an NFC foe. So why I say this is a huge indicator is because you could see them again come playoff time. Reminder of the divisional round last year. That game was almost lost in Philadelphia. This is a tough Rams team. They are very tough with a tough mindset. Sean McVay is their head coach. They are mentally tough. He has those boys ready. Stafford so far through 2 games, he's been stellar. He's looked like Stafford, one of the best quarterbacks this league has seen. No surprise. Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, they look like one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. Puka last week, 8 catches, 136 receiving yards, 1 touchdown. Devontae last week, six catches, 106 receiving yards, and 1 touchdown. And their defense, it's tough. Their defense is tough, especially their defensive front and their linebackers. They're tough. Jared Verse, Byron Young, Quentin Lake, Davis Allen. Very tough. So the full focus shifts to the Rams. As the week goes on, we will break down what they do well, their strengths, their weaknesses, like I did with the Chiefs, things like that. We're going to break that down as the week goes on, but now it is time to focus for the Los Angeles Rams because it can be a very tough game for the Eagles, especially if their passing game is not improved. It doesn't have to be the best we've seen it ever. It doesn't have to be top tier, 300 plus yards, air it out. Like, it doesn't have to be like that, but it has to improve. It has to improve. That is all we have for today. As always, stay up to date with Eagles Latest by Fan Arch. Like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.